Hi, this is Trinesha Cottrell, and today I wanted to talk about impulse. So, I know you're probably thinking, what is making you do a video about impulse? So, earlier today I was listening to a sermon, and it talked about different types of relationships, relationship with God, relationships with each other, and things like that. And it started to talk about choices that we make in life and how the pastor, his example was about Samson and Delilah. And for those of you that don't know, Samson, he had this thing for Philistines, and he really just wanted a woman that he really shouldn't have been with in the first place, because it was just this rule that he couldn't be with this woman. And it wasn't like someone is better than someone else. It was just it was just one of those things. And so I'm trying to explain it the best that I can. So work with me. And so he just always wanted this type of woman. This was the type of woman he shouldn't have wanted to be with, or shouldn't have been with in the first place, but he just had to have her. It was this impulse inside of him that made him want this type of woman. Eventually, he meets Delilah. Delilah wants to know the secrets, how to defeat him, and he tells her all of these things that are not true about, braiding his hair, braiding his hair up, or, tying him a rope, and, all of these different things. And the last time, she's nagging him and just trying to get him to tell her how, trying, she's trying to get him to tell her how he could be defeated. And he says, if you cut off my hair, I'll be as weak as all the other men, just like the other men. And it's so funny because in this story, what ends up happening is he gets captured and they gouge his eyes out. I know, so drastic. And it wasn't until then that he cried out to God. Some of us don't cry out to God till we get to our weakest moment. And for me, I've noticed that in my personal life, the moment that I needed God the most, the moment that I really turned to God, that I really saw I wanted to seek God, was when I was at my lowest point. That was the moment I really cried out and I said, God, help me. I need you. And before then, I really thought I knew everything. I thought I could figure everything out on my own. I just thought I knew everything. And it wasn't until I turned to God that I realized I knew nothing, and that all the answers that I needed lie in God. And so what made me want to call this impulse is because that sense of urgency, that impulse that Samson felt, that urgency that we feel in life when we reach a certain age and we're not married and we don't have kids, and this isn't for everybody. This is not a blanket statement. This is just examples to help you understand. And when you get a certain age or you reach a certain age and all of a sudden you're like, I should be finished college at such and such age, or, whatever your goal is, I should be this successful at this age. I should be doing this. I should have this type of life at this age. Whatever your thing is that you feel like you set a time limit on and not God, is something that you're rushing at. It's something that you are doing in a sense of urgency, instead of a sense of just allowing it to happen the way it's intended to. Sometimes we really forget that we're not in control of anything in this world. Can we set goals? Yes. Can we have a vision for what our life should be and follow God's guidance? Absolutely. But so many things happen in life that we don't expect. And that's where seeking God really comes in handy. And so I wrote this thing down yesterday and it blessed me so much. I think I'm going to do this in 3 stages. So I talked about impulse, but the 3 things that I think I'm going to talk about in this video, which I learned yesterday, but I could not find this paper for some reason. And then I I didn't have enough time. So today I have a little bit more time, but I don't have a lot of time. And so I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet. I'm going to try to stick to the point so it can be relevant and it may benefit someone. And so I'm going to talk about the single season. I'm going to talk about in a relationship. And when I say in a relationship, I do not mean necessarily being in a romantic relationship. This is relationship with friends, family members, any person that you encounter, romantic or otherwise, and success. I didn't intentionally write these in this order. I literally started learning things in different things online, different things in books, different things, and it just so happened that they just went in that order, and I was like, that's kind of the way that most people view their life. They think they're in the single season first, that they're alone. And if God intends for you to be married, then you're in a relationship. And most people view that as success. But that's not necessarily success. Success could be in finding a relationship with God. That's what success is for me. Success for me is me being obedient and doing the things God wants me to do. Me staying focused, me being intentional with my life and not getting distracted. And when I can do the things that I know I need to do, and it's not always perfect, that is what success looks like to me. Me being obedient to God and God just providing all of my needs because of my obedience. So the first thing that I learned, I was watching this video, and I usually watch like really inspirational or informational videos. I don't really like to pour any of and I'm not trying to say this to like offend anybody, but I just don't like to dump a lot of trash into my system. I like to make sure that whatever it is I'm watching, reading, whoever I'm talking to is someone that is pouring into me or I get to pour into. I try not to have something that's just kind of like a thing. Like I do entertainment stuff, but usually the entertainment things that I watch are something with someone helping someone. So I still feel like I get that benefit of like, okay, that makes me feel good on the inside because I know someone is being helped, even if it's fictional. So I try to do stuff like that. And I do have one show that I watch that is not like I mean, I do learn things from it, but it's not like a educational thing. It's more like it is entertainment. I haven't felt any unsettling feelings about it. So for now, it's good. If I feel anything off, if my flesh gets weak, whatever else, then the show has to go. I cut off like 3 shows already. I'm telling you, I'm serious about this. And those shows were good. But listen, my soul, my peace of mind is more important than any TV show that could come out. It just is. I don't want to feel like I have to struggle on the inside with what's on the what's with my flesh, what is on the outside of me. So I try to make sure that I'm paying attention, I'm being intentional. If something makes me feel some type of way, if something like kind of distracts me a little, if something makes me start to behave in a way that's not conducive to the type of life that God would intend for me to live, then I cut it off. I can't allow that to be in my life, in my mind, in my soul. I need to have things in my life that are feeding me. And so the the video that I watched was with a bunch of women who are all in ministry, and they all like, it's kind of like what The View or something like that would be, but it's all Christian women. And they are having a discussion about different topics, but their topics that are involving biblical characters or something that they've done in their life that has brought them closer to God, or it'll be something along those lines. And so in this specific video, there was this guest there, and she was talking about singleness. And I can't remember what her name was, but I think the book was called something like Being Single in a Couple's World or something like that is the name of the book. And so she was talking about her single season and how she had dated this guy and she really was interested in him. And he just wasn't as interested in her as he should have been. He was all wrong for her, everything else. And I don't know if she dated him. I think she liked him. She liked him a lot. And it never really got to the point where she was actually, they were really in a, deep relationship or anything like that. But she was so interested in this guy, and he just wasn't interested in her like that, but he was interested in her friend. And she had to sit there and watch them while they were together, while they were hugging and laughing, and he was hardcore pursuing her friend when she really, really was interested in him. And that thought in my mind was just like, oh my gosh. My heart kind of went out to her, because I know that had to suck, to be in a situation where you really truly care about somebody, and in your mind you know how you would treat the person, but they want the person who, I'm not saying the person won't treat them like you will treat them, but you know how it is, like when you have your house or you have your car, nobody takes care of it better than you do. So in your mind, you're just thinking, oh, nobody's going to do the thing that I do the way that I do it. And really, not everybody's grace for everybody else. So, I mean, it really broke my heart to hear that part, but her story ends really well. So I was like, okay, at least, you know, everything worked out for her in the end, the way it was supposed to, the way that God always intended it to. And so, so the guy, he hardcore pursued her friend, and oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. Anyways, so so she goes through this period after that. She's of course heartbroken, because who wouldn't be? This is the guy that you really, really like. It's not just some guy that is a random person who, you really don't care about at all. It's totally different when it's somebody you're interested in than when it is somebody that it's like, hey, Bob, okay, have a nice day. When it's like, oh my gosh, that's Jack, you know? So, yeah, I totally get it. And she really had this hard moment, hard time in her life, because she said she never was in any real relationships like that. And this was like the one guy that she really liked, and she just spent time in her life just feeling like, okay, well, I'm in college. I haven't dated anybody, I haven't met anybody, and it just felt like she said she really felt like she was never going to meet the person. That it just felt like it was impossible, that there was no way. Like maybe it wasn't going to happen, because she would meet people. This part right here touched my soul so hard. Like, you don't even understand. When she said this, I felt this deep down in my soul. She was like, this is so true. And for people who are watching this, who are in a relationship, who try to give single people advice, please don't. I know you were single at one point, and you saying like a cliche is not really helpful, even though you think it is. Like, oh, don't worry, it'll work out. Listen, or you'll find it. Listen, we don't want to hear that. We really don't. I don't want to hear that it will work out, because I trust God and I know it'll work out. And even though you think you're saying it and it's like affirming and it's like really helping, it's really not. It's just kind of making me think about the fact that, I don't know. It kind of feels like they're there kind of thing. Not like a, you got this. So this is what she said that really helped. It blessed me, and I think it'll bless other people as well, to understand what single people go through. Okay. And I don't mean it in like a, oh, I gotta be in a relationship kind of way. I mean it in a like, really listen to what I'm saying, so that you can seek to understand, like TG says, because it'll really help you with your friends and other people, like especially if you're the married person or you're in a relationship. So you don't end up being that person that's just saying a one line thing, thinking that it's going to help solve somebody's problem. Because although you want to help and we really appreciate your effort, it is not helpful at all for you and your relationship to tell us things like that. It really isn't. It's not, and I don't mean it in a mean way. I just mean it in a, I know your heart's in the right place. I know you're a beautiful person, things like that. But it's not helpful. It's not. And so, so, okay. And so what she said was she would go different places while she was single and people would try to hook her up or like, match her up with different people. There would be random guys that would come to like different events and stuff and they would be trying to hook her up with different people, or she would go different places and she would meet, a lot of different guys. This right here, this part right here is where it really hit my soul. She was like, but it's not a point about meeting different people. I had no problem meeting people. The point is that I realized and I knew that I was not going to settle for anything that God wasn't in and that wasn't intended for me. And even though I've met several other people, they're not the person. And that is the most heartbreaking thing. It's not that, oh, she's just some lonely, desperate person who's all alone. She's not lonely and desperate. If she was desperate, she would just settle for any one of those guys that would come her way. The thing is, when you know that you know that you know that God is telling you no for all of these people, or you know that you know that you know that God has selected a certain person for you, when you meet all of these other guys who are not about that life, all of these other guys who are unequally yoked, all of these other guys who don't have the best of intentions, all of these other guys who, I mean, and it's guy after guy after guy. I mean, it's not like there's a lack of men. It's like several plethora. It's like an abundance of men, and none of those guys are the one. That's the part. That part right there. And you knowing that you choose not to settle, that is the hardest thing ever for a single person like me and like that young lady. Because it's different when, you have friends or family members or other people who are willing to settle, who just want a man. Like men are everywhere. That's not a difficult thing to find. What's difficult is when you seek God and you have to be obedient and disciplined, and knowing that if this person is unequally yoked, it's not the person. If God doesn't give me a yes, it's a no, and you just keep on, I mean, the guys just keep on passing by. You're like, okay, I mean, is there a particular number? Things like that is what really makes you feel a certain type of way. And you don't feel a certain type of way because you're like, I have to be in a relationship. You feel a certain type of way because you know that you know that you know that you won't settle. And it's hard. It really is hard because some days you're like, why don't I just be with a person who is just a random person who might be interested in me, but God says no. And it's like, I can't do that. Why don't I just be with somebody who, is not about that life, who just, you know, deigns to be with me, who's not really appointed to be with me or grace for me? And then the answer is still no. And so there's absolutely it's this thing about you have absolutely nothing that you can do about it at all because you won't settle. you know, and because you know that without God's yes, it's no point. It really is no point at all. So you're doing all of this and it's like, without God, I just can't. I can't. It's not, there's no way. That's the struggle. And so if you're giving advice to your friends, for me, I would just say don't give any advice at all. Because I don't want advice from people in a couple. I mean, unless it's like, this is the thing that really helps us communicate better. This is the thing that really helps us stay strong in our relationship. If you want to give advice like that you know about, then I think that is amazing. And it's good because in the future, when we're both seeking God, and I know that this is something that helped you, this might be something that helps me as well. Even though every relationship is different, but communication is one of those things that is one of the most important things in a relationship. And so something like that is fine. Don't give me a cliche. Please don't. Don't give me a cliche of, oh yeah, you'll meet someone. I know that. I meet people every time I leave the house. It's not a problem of meeting people. It's a problem of, it's not even a problem that I won't settle. It's not even a problem that I need God's approval. It's just having patience. And sometimes it's really hard to be patient because you're just, I'm going to say this, people going to judge me, and it's fine. And one of the issues that I have is when you look around at the people who settled for something less than what God had for them. And it's like, well, they settled and they seem fine. I know if it was me, if I settled like that, and I'm not getting on this person's relationship or any person's relationship. I'm just saying, I see people take the easy way out and they're just like, they just want to be with someone. They just want to have somebody and they don't want the person. It's like, and I don't mean just one, I just mean the person who, God intended for them. And I don't mean to. I'm just saying that, if the one person decides they don't want to be in a relationship because they're still out playing these games, even though they know that you could be a wife and they could be a good person for you and they could be grace for you, but this other person who God says yes to is grace for you and ready, then that's going to have to be the person, things like that. And so it gets really difficult when I see people settle for the bare minimum and I'm out here really trying to do the right thing. And it's like, I know, don't grow weary in well doing. I know. It's really difficult as a single person when you have standards and boundaries and you see other people just lower their standards and boundaries, just accept someone calling them once a month or barely, or not calling them at all, someone who's not being intentional, and they just kind of accept it just because they have somebody. And you see them in their pictures together, they're posting it everywhere. Not that I look at people's pages, I just kind of post my thing and then keep on moving. But I know for other women, like, I can only imagine seeing other people in couples together on social media, other places. You go to a store, you go to wherever else, you see these couples together, and you're like, okay, I'm trying to do the right thing, but Susie and Joe over here, they're all happy and both of them settled for each other, or they seem happy, because we don't know what goes on in their relationship. And I personally, but I know some other women go through this, or men, they will look and they'll be like, oh, I want a relationship just like that. I say this all the time and people don't get it, but I do not want a relationship like anybody else's relationship. I don't want a relationship like my friends, my family members, nobody that I know, nobody that I've ever seen. I don't want any of their relationships. The relationship that I want is the one that God appointed for me, the man that God graced for me in the way that God intended for it to be. That's it. I don't want it to look like anybody else, talk like anybody else. I don't want the person that I'm going to be with to act like Susie's husband. Like, I don't care what Susie's husband does. I want the things that my husband's going to do for me that is graced just for me. And the person who I'm graced for, hopefully they're not trying to be with, Taylor or somebody, they are really being with the person that God graced for them, which I know God takes care of everything and it works out exactly the way it's supposed to. So I'm not worried about that, but I'm just saying in general. So back to the story. And I said it wasn't going to be long. I'm going to try not to be too long. So as this girl was talking about how, it just seemed like it was never going to happen for her. And she just kind of felt like, she was getting older and everything else. And she was just feeling like, oh my gosh, like, God, why isn't this happening? I know I'm supposed to be married. And she had two loving parents who were together her whole life. So she had a good example. And both of them were, religious and everything else and stuff. And she just said she knows what it looks like. She knows what she wants. And for some reason, it just wasn't happening for her. And God asked her what I think is one of the most important questions that all of us as single people should ask ourselves. And that is God enough? Really sit there and think about it while you are like, for some women, for some men, desperately wanting to be in a relationship, desperately wanting the position, desperately wanting all of these things in your life while you are sitting there, just wanting these things. these people, places, or things so badly. Is God enough? And really answer it truthfully, because God already knows the truth when you discuss this with him. And if you're putting that house, that car, that job, that person before him, your desire for that before him, then you have to rearrange your priorities, because God should be number one. So when she answered this question, she said, I would like for you to be enough, God, but I don't think you are enough right now. And so God took her on a journey for a year and a half where she had to mourn the idea of being in a relationship, the idea of her father walking her down the aisle, the idea of having children, all of the things that she had desired being in a relationship. She really mourned all of it. And towards the tail end of a year and a half of her being single, not dating or anything else, I think she said she went on a date or something like that, or she met someone, but she knew that wasn't the person. And so at the tail end of that, she started to feel like she was content with never being married, never having children, never meeting the person. And God introduced the person that she was supposed to have in her life. On day one, they went on the first date. I'm going to try not to cry. Every time. Goodness gracious. So they went on their first date. And God said yes. Before she asked God for permission before they went on their first date, and God said yes. And when they were on their date, God said yes. On the first date, and I think, yeah, on the first date, she said on this first date, if he would have asked her to marry him, she would have said yes on the first date, because she had a yes from God, and because she knew right away. Like before, she hadn't heard any yeses. She heard God say no and everything, but this was like the clearest yes that she'd ever gotten. And I'm gonna try to get it together. And she knew. And then on the second or third date, he flew to her hometown or something like that to meet her dad, and he told him his intentions and how he was planning on marrying her. And her dad had said, he's the one. And even then, they waited, I think, a year or so before they decided to get married. And she said that they didn't wait because they wanted to wait. She said, because really, I would have just married him then, which I could see that. And she said that she waited because she wanted to show God that she was taking it serious, that she was being intentional about being in this relationship, and that God was enough for her. And this was just an added bonus. This was another blessing, you know. And when she told her story, it was really amazing. And during the talk and everything, they put up this scripture on there. And I think it's really important to always remember that God gives you peace that surpasses all understanding, even in moments when you can't see how you could feel content with something. And really allowing yourself to grieve those things that you desperately want or that you really desire in your life will allow God to move in the way that he needs to move in your life. Not only that, but it'll help you stop staying focused on the job, the car, the house, the relationship. And it will truly allow you to build a real relationship with God, knowing that He is enough. And when you feel like God is enough, there's nothing that can come between you and God. And I kind of feel like that's good. Maybe tomorrow, because it is starting to get late and I didn't know I was going to take that long going through the single season part. But I probably won't break this up into 3 sections. I'll probably just keep it at that. And tomorrow, if I remember, or the next day, if I do another video, I will go through in a relationship and success. Maybe those would be 2 different ones, but it might be titled something else. But really, just stay focused on God. And I know, like, for the single women out there, I don't know if men go through this, because you guys, it's funny. I had this little inside joke in my head, but I'm not going to say it because it might offend somebody. But all of the single women out there, it's going to be okay. I know you're not desperate for somebody. I know you're not just trying to jump into a relationship. I know you're not just trying to settle for anything. And there might be some guys or some things that you want so badly. And even though I'm not there yet, I know that what God has is better. I know you probably can't imagine better. I know you probably are thinking, what could be better than this? If you've seen the type of miracles, signs and wonders that God can do, you probably won't ask that question. You will probably just know that God got you and that He's working everything out for your good. That you don't have to worry or feel like, it's happening for everybody else but me, or it's happening and you don't know when it's going to happen. So it just kind of feels like hope deferred. I know sometimes it feels like you just want to give up or just settle, but please don't settle. I promise you, God has so much better for you. There's nothing that any person could do that would ever give you the things that God intended to give you. That person that you're settling for is never going to be all the things that God graced just for you. The things that you really need deep down in your soul that the other person will be able to feed you. You won't be able to get that from a person that you settle with. The things that you think really don't matter that much, like maybe you're like, well, they communicate, but they don't do this, or whatever else it is. The thing that you truly desire, but you're willing to give in because you really want this other person. The person that God has for you will do that. I know you can't imagine it because there seems like there's no person that God said yes to that does any of those things. But I promise you, you deserve God's best for you. You deserve everything that God has for you. And you can't give up. You really have come way too far to give up now. God has brought you through way too much for you to just settle for anything in your life. You can't just settle for a job just to make money. Like, of course, we all have to make money. But if you know God placed something on the inside of you and He's telling you to do something else, you need to do that. And I'm not telling people to quit their job. I always have to say this because there's that one person that's like, well, she said, listen, do everything God is intending for you to do. If God is saying stay there and work your 9 to 5 and do your business, do that. If God is saying work your job and then go serve in this place and then a door will open randomly on like a Tuesday in April on the 23rd, then that's what it's going to be. Like, stay focused on God. I know it's so hard sometimes, especially when you want to do the right thing, especially when you don't want to settle, because sometimes it's really hard to stay strong It really is. Even for me. So I'm not saying this because I'm judging people or because I'm just a super strong person who always does the wrong thing. Hey, I mess up too. I do some stuff the wrong way. Sometimes I want things so badly. I want to just push past doing the right thing just to get it. But I know I can't. I know that it will not benefit me. It will be the thing that destroys me in the long run. It'll be the thing that breaks me down instead of builds me up. And the only thing I need broken off of me is those negative things, those bad things. So, in conclusion, there's no reason to be at haste. There's no reason to have this impulse to get things done immediately, right now, to hurry up and rush into a relationship, to hurry up and rush into whatever decision it is that you think that you have to make right away, or say something to someone right away because your opportunity is going to be gone. You don't have to do that. God is taking care of everything. You just have to be patient, patiently waiting on God, and really ask yourself, is God enough? And if your answer is no, spend more time with God. Figure out a way to grow your relationship with Him and to stay focused on your purpose. Because while you are serving, more than likely that's where you're going to meet your husband. I know. I said that, and I'm not saying it so that you can serve just to meet your husband. I'm saying it because when you help other people, sometimes it feeds a part of your soul and it's showing God that He can trust you. And while you're doing that, you're so focused on helping other people that it stops being about you. And when you become part of a relationship, you have to be selfless. You cannot be completely selfish in a relationship because it's not just about you. So serving, I think, is like preparation for a relationship. I don't know. That's just like my thoughts. I don't know for real because I've never been in a healthy relationship. But I hope that by the time that God allows me to meet the man who is grace for me, that I will be in a position where God will be enough, where I can be completely selfless. Because there might be things that I need, but I don't want it to just be all about me. You know, I could be in a place where I'm completely content with everything I have in my life, and not just single season, because there's some things in my life that I really haven't accomplished that I really truly want to do. And I'm not saying I have to have those things done before I meet someone, but I want to be prepared, and I want to be ready. I don't want to do anything prematurely. I don't want to do anything at an impulse. I want to be patiently waiting on God, you know, and I don't want anything prematurely at all. I want to be well done, not medium well, you know, like on the outside I look good, on the inside I got a lot of issues. Like I need to make sure that I got it together, and the other person, I hope they're working on themselves as well, so that when we come together we can be a united front and not just opponents. We could be on the same team. And so God will give you peace that surpasses all understanding, and do not grow weary in well doing.